Welcome to episode Who Gives a Fuck? Okay, the theme of this episode is Who Gives a Fuck? Now, this is the Cooper Lyden is Alone podcast. Thanks for tuning in. It's a cloudy day. I like a cloudy day, but I also don't like a cloudy day because what I like about a cloudy day is that it tells my body to do nothing, which I feel like is like an evolutionary thing where when your eyes see just a shit ton of clouds all around, your main thought is like, there's no hunting to be done. We're just cooking whatever meat is already salted. We're staying in the hut. If we go out there now, we're going to get eaten by bears because bears don't care about the clouds. But you can't just sit around and do nothing. You got to get to work. You got to get to hard work, and you got to do a podcast. You got to do a podcast because people are demanding it. Okay, I have to do this podcast because when I do it, possibly two people are like, oh, they listen to about 10 minutes. I don't know if they got this far, but that's why I have to do this. I've been playing this game on my phone for probably over a year now, on and off. I have to delete it almost within a day of when I buy it on my phone. It's called BitLife, and I shouldn't even tell you the name because if you're like me and you download it, it will ruin your real life. All you do in the game is simulate a life, and you have tons of options and choices of what you can do. It starts from the day you're born. You see how you do in school. You can decide to make friends. You can decide to get a girlfriend. You can get somebody knocked up in high school. You get out of high school. Maybe your grades are good. You can apply to college. Maybe you were an athlete in high school. You get a scholarship. You end up getting drafted. You can become a famous athlete. You can practice music. You can become a famous singer, an actor, a mafia boss, hustling on the streets, just either doing scams or busking. You can start your own business. You can get almost any job you can think of in any field. You can murder people. You can steal cars. You can rob banks. You can get married. You can get divorced. You can have kids. You can have a bunch of kids. You can kill your family. I've mentioned murder twice, but you can kill your family. If you get famous, you're on commercials. You make money. You write books. You go on talk shows. You can embezzle from your work. You can go out to nightclubs. You can get addicted to drugs or alcohol. You can go to therapy. You can go to rehab. You can go on vacation. You can do almost anything. Well, no. That's really sad. You can't do almost anything in life. You can't actually feel anything. I was going to say you can't feel anything, but you can get depression and most mental illnesses in the game. They just sort of afflict you. But you can't, none of it's real. It's all just a lie. But when I get stressed, I start playing this game and I just build lives that are either becoming famous off of sports or music or acting, or I grow a very successful business and become a famous CEO. I either do that. I'm either like hyper successful, usually famous because I'm a piece of shit, or I revert to a life of crime. And there's a few different lives of crime I'll kind of do. Sometimes I'll join the mafia. Sometimes I'm solo. Sometimes I'm good at what I do. Sometimes I will start a life and I'll say this character is going to murder his parents at the age of 14. Because in the game you're allowed to start murdering at 14, which is like, whoa. And then he's going to go to jail for the rest of his life. For a while I was just trying to see how long somebody could be in jail, just making a 90-year-old man who's pretty much been in jail since he was 14. Which is, I guess it kind of speaks to my brain, where it's like I'm either going to be famous and everybody's going to love me, or I'm going to hurt people. And I hope that that is not how I live my life, because I'm still trying to find commercial success. Point is, if this podcast doesn't work out, I'll probably have to go on some sort of spree. I'm not going to say killing, but, some sort of spree, maybe just a graffiti spree. But I'm going on a spree. am due for a spree. You gotta have. Some people go their entire lives without ever going on a spree. I don't know what you think you're gonna have to look back on when you're a kid. People, January 6th, that was their spree. That was their storming spree. I guess sprees imply kind of a continued thing, but I think if you storm the Capitol, that's worth, 5 different robberies if you're trying to get into the spree field. I wonder if there's one guy that didn't know that they were talking about the U.S. Capitol. You know what I mean? Like just some guy that was just kind of skimming on alt-right Facebook pages and just saw like we're storming the Capitol, and he was like, fuck yeah. And then just drove down to like Indianapolis and went to their capital. He just lives in rural Indiana. He's like, I'm fucking going to the Capitol. Then he gets there and he has all this gear on. He shows up and nobody's there. Then he looks at his phone and sees these news reports. Like, everybody's storming the Capitol. And he's like, what is he talking about? And he sees it and he's like, oh, fuck. Oh, of course it was a presidential election. Oh, God. I didn't even know why we were storming it. Then he just ends up just taking a tour of the capital of Indiana, which may or may not be Indianapolis. I apologize if it's not. You gotta go on a spree. I don't know. This game just kills my head. I am very Gen Z in the way of I will just look at a phone and my eyes will hurt and I'll be like, this doesn't feel good. Like this actively, even this game that's supposed to like bring you joy, doesn't feel good. And I think it's just because I've tried to like flood my brain with dopamine so much that it gets to a point where it's just like you're just trying to come after jerking off like 7 times, where it's like you kind of have an orgasm, but you just, nothing even comes out. You know what I mean? And it's like pretty much just doing that, except nonstop. Your brain is just supposed to constantly be coming for hours, and your brain gets to a point where it's like, this hurts, and there's signals from our eyes that we should stop doing this, and yet we continue doing this. Please fucking stop. But I play it all the time. And what's funny is like I don't even like make mistakes. Like I try and live a good life unless I'm purposely trying not to. But I'll just like, sometimes you're playing the game and then something will pop up and it'll be like, this guy just insulted you. Do you want to insult him back or attack him? And unless I'm trying to live a bad life, I just press forgive him. And it's like, as crazy as it seems to play a game where you're just murdering people, it's almost more insane to play a game where you have free reign and then just still follow the rules of society. Like that's a kind of like modern day kind of brain trapping that's happening now, where it's like, even if it's a boring normal life, it's still better than reality. It's still just better to look at the fucking screen. And yeah, I play it way too goddamn much, and my girlfriend is such an intelligent person in, the kind of classic ways you think of. She's educated, has a degree, has a lot of things to talk about, obviously can take in information and not only understand it, but draw her own conclusions and immerse that into her own life. But she's also very smart in terms of just being and living a life and being a person that exists in the real world and is not really interested in social media. Like a good example is that like she has social media, but she doesn't use it to like just scroll and look at stuff. Like she'll kind of just post something and then just put it down, maybe open it up, see a pic her friend posted, throw that a like, but we're not scrolling. The explore page does not even exist to her. The page that I look at, where it's just a guy in Thailand throwing a bunch of cut up chilies into a wok full of oil, and then there's just like Miley Cyrus playing over all of it. Like I just watch shit that is recorded in villages on Instagram. I don't know these people. I just know that they're in a village and they got fucking half of a rim off of a 1988, Mercedes E class, whatever. We're not going to be funny just because we have details. It's shit's wild on the explore page, okay? But she doesn't know about that because she knows she doesn't need to know about that, so she doesn't know about that, and she's definitely not playing fucking games on her phone. So I tell her I play this game, and I'm like, yeah, and this guy, he built a business and had 4 kids, and then she says the pretty obvious answer, which is you can do that in real life. Do you want to do that? You can just do that. You can have children and you can run a business. You don't have to play a game to do that. And then I'm like, well, yeah, I don't want to do it, but you can, live an entire life in 10 minutes to an hour, depending on how you live. And you can do all this shit you would never do in a much easier, quicker fashion. Which is like, what is the actual interest of that? I guess it's being bored and stressed out by life, so you're literally creating a new one. And it's such a perfect game because you can just do too much. It's the same reason I can't play Grand Theft Auto, because there's so much shit to do. And this game has so much more shit to do. You're just not looking at an avatar. It's just sort of a list of things and a button to get older and decisions. It's mostly words and symbols and shit. But I can't play a game where you are allowed to just live. It fucks me up every time. And the problem is I start figuring out schemes within a game that then I go into the game not even thinking, what am I going to do? I have like a mission now. Like my friend had Red Dead Redemption, and I was staying with him in Colorado for a little bit, and I just figured out that you can go out on the trails with a rope and you can lasso, if not just murder a man and his horse, and then steal everything he has, and then do that to like 5 different guys, just leaving a trail of bodies. Or you can take the body with you, but why would you? Just leaving a trail of bodies, and then bring that all back to a town and sell it, make some cheddar. What do I even do with that money? I don't just buy more guns or whatever, or just stack it, just watch those numbers grow. But that's why, because it's too interesting. It's too interesting to have a game where you're like, I can just go out into the map of this game and just see what I find. Just find a guy and be like, this horse is better, take it, now it's yours, and just kill him. Like, that's fucked up. Now, I don't know how much of that is true about, like, things you do in video games. You're kind of fucks up your brain and maybe normalizes it. I mean, it definitely normalizes it, because you're saying video games are normal, and in these video games I kill people, i.e. killing people in video games is normal. So you're still pretty far from killing a person, but it's still the idea. You know what I mean? It's definitely still the idea. Like, yogurt's not ice cream, but they're not too far off from each other. You know what I mean? You eat cold yogurt, might as well be ice cream. Frozen yogurt, that's a different story. But yeah, I've been playing this game too goddamn much, and then I don't get any. I was supposed to start this podcast 2 hours ago, and I got caught up. In blasting cigs and trying to be a country star on my phone. That is no way to live. I don't know. I've been I go through phases where I'm kind of more into being lazy, because I'm a pretty lazy guy to begin with, I think. But I usually am so stressed out about it, and it makes me feel so fucked up that it's hard to really enjoy and truly, like, I envy people who are really able to sit on a couch guilt-free. And I think those two types of people are either people who work really hard and then they come home and they sit on the couch for like maybe an hour, like a responsible amount of time, and, watch TV or maybe even read a book if you're fucking Superman. But then they go to bed and then they look at that and they're like, that was relaxation. That was helpful, mind clearing, just dumb, whatever. I had a long day. You have those guys. And then you just have absolute fucking pieces of shit. You just have absolute nerds that, or losers more so, that have nothing going on and are fine with it. People that just, there's not shit going on in their life. And they're totally cool with it. And I mean, I don't know, my roommate can get like that. And it's very weird. It's very weird to walk inside your home and you just see someone and you just want to be like, you gotta get up. Brother, you have been on the couch getting high as shit the entire day. You have to get up. This is crazy. It's really time you get up, brother. Because it's an affront to life, Everything you do is an action. Even if you do nothing, then what you do is nothing. What you do is live a sedentary life. People will look back on your life and say, what did he do? And they'll say, he didn't do much. What he did was not much. Those were your actions. You exerted yourself. Not much, but you exerted yourself upon the world by just sitting on the couch. That's what you used it all for, So you see somebody do that day in and day out. And, sometimes you just want to tell them, like, dude, I don't like coming home to the... Can you do some shit? Because it's bumming me out. Because then I walk into my space of living and there's just loser vibes in here. And it's like, I can't. I'm already a loser myself. I can't afford to have loser vibes in the house infecting me, I've definitely become one of those people in small ways where some people are very annoying about it, but definitely become one of those people where you look around and you're like, there's no way this is making me better. Might actively be making things worse, especially when you're in a living space that's not good. You start to really worry about whether or not you can stay in that space and if it's fucking you up. Because it's like, you don't want to fucking wait 2 years, then move out and just be like, holy shit. What the fuck am I doing? Like, what has happened? Literally, what has been going on this entire time? It's important to have those moments, I think, especially as a young person, in the hopes that maybe you don't have those moments later. But it is terrifying and important to just every few months, if things are not progressing, you got to look and just go, okay, what was going on 3 months ago? And then be like, okay, what's going on right now? And then you're like, fuck, pretty much the same shit. Pretty much the same shit. And sometimes you don't see progression. Like, you do stand up for, a year and you look back and you're like, well, I have not passed at any clubs. Still not getting booked as much as I'd want to. Nobody listens to my podcast. But then you got to be like, well, I'm still a year more experienced in stand-up or podcasting than I was before. So that's got to count for something. I mean, it's got to count for something. I like to believe that if I keep doing this podcast for long enough, I will be good at it. But I think there's also kind of my own ego and a comedian's ego that I'm like, well, I can just do this. Maybe I'm just naturally good at this. Maybe I can just fucking riff. When the reality is, I just think I can. I just have enough confidence to try it. Or enough arrogance, really. And I say arrogance because every time I tell people that I do a podcast, which is just me talking for an hour, they always go, that's crazy. and not crazy and like, wow, that's impressive. Like, there's definitely a hint of like, wow, you talk by yourself for an hour. That must be a little tough. That must be, wild. But really, what they're saying is like, you sit in your room, you talk to yourself for an hour, and you film it, and then you show people. Like, if you went up to your friend, you were like, yeah, man, today was interesting. I just sat in my room and spoke out loud to myself. Just pontificated. Based on who you are, unless you are like a philosophy student talking to another philosophy student, most of your friends are immediately going to be like, are you okay? Is anything wrong right now? And you're like, no. And they're like, it seems like things are wrong. If you told your friend that you sit in your room for an hour once a week and speak only to yourself, their next question wouldn't be like, you filming it? You showing people that? You letting people check that out? You got to let people see it. People have to see that. I mean, gosh, they have to see that. But, I'm getting better at trying to chill. But you got to earn chilling, Sometimes you don't. And also my problem is I try and earn things and then do them to excess. You know what I mean? Where it's like, oh, I've had a long day. I can sit back and smoke a joint. But then I smoke one and I'm like, if I smoke another, I'll be so much more high. And it's like, you don't need to be. You're high. Be high. But I think the funny thing, because I've been trying not to drink, so I've been smoking a little more weed. But you kind of have, especially with weed, definitely with alcohol, but to a lesser extent, it's so funny when you're a guy like me who has addictive tendencies and gets a little bit sad, you end up using alcohol to be happier. And it's just funny because you start off sober, and you're like, man, this is fucking boring, or I don't feel great. I'm going to drink and it'll be more fun, or I'm going to smoke weed and it'll be more fun. And then when the beer's in your hand, or when you're smoking the weed, it feels good. And I think it's because you're kind of telling your brain like, this is good, and your brain's taking it in and be like, this is bad this is poison. I'm going to tell your liver to fix this. But you're looking at it, you feel a sense of assurance because you're doing something that's supposed to make you happy. So every time you sip the beer, you're telling yourself, you're like, there's more happy, there's more happy. And then you finish that beer, and then you're open-handed, and all of a sudden, you're not having fun. Once the joint is done, all of a sudden, you are just high, or you are just drunk, and you just deal with that raw feeling, which is like alcohol is a poison that fucks up your motor skills and your thinking skills, and kind of just makes you a person that you can't really function, which is then you enjoy that permission to not function because you can't anymore. And weed is just releasing a bunch of dopamine, I don't know, cannabinoid, whatever. There's receptors. But it's not like that inherently means you're happy. It just means you get high. And if you're not feeling happy, you get high or you get drunk, and then you're just like, okay, well, now I'm drunk. Or now I'm high. And everything is the same. I just feel different. So that's why you just keep drinking, is because you have the beer in your hand and you're like, we're on the right track. We're still going. We're on the right track, And so, sometimes I try. Lately, I've been trying to drink less and realizing I probably eventually have to not drink. But right now, I'm not fully doing it. Right now, I'm drinking less and then kind of treating myself when I do, which is bad because I don't realize that even when I drink, I still shouldn't drink 7 drinks. But in my head, I'm like, what's 1 to 7? Drinking's drinking, And especially when you're young, you're not getting crazy hangovers. So you're just like, yeah, I'll just get drunk and then I'll wake up tomorrow and I might feel a little sluggish. And then I'll drink a Gatorade and eat some sort of bread product. And then I'm fucking 23 again. But, you treat yourself, I'll be out at a restaurant be like, I'm going to get some wine and act like a normal person. Then you have like 3 glasses, or 4 glasses, which is, of wine. If they pour it big, all of a sudden you don't want to believe you're drunk, but then you're like, ah, fuck, man, I just went out to dinner and now I'm drunk. I'm not fucked up, but I am drunk, and you didn't mean to. You did not mean to. It's tough, but I don't know. I talked about this before on the podcast, but it has happened again. I had been drinking. I just told myself I was just gonna stop, at least for a little. The problem was I said that on Friday and maybe didn't drink Saturday, and then Sunday came and I went to Buffalo Wild Wings, and that's when shit really started to fall apart, because you can't walk into a Buffalo Wild Wings and not drink. You know what I mean? I had a joke about it where I say, they have a Long Island iced tea with Mountain Dew in it, and it's like, I have to drink in a Buffalo Wild Wings. Even if I'm not getting that drink, just the fact that you exist in the same space as a Long Island iced tea with Mountain Dew in it, it means you're going to drink. You know what I mean? It's like if you're raised in a family of fundamentalist Christians, you're probably going to end up a little Christian, i.e. raised in Mountain Dew, Long Island iced tea family. You're probably still going to be sipping a Miller Lite at the very least, if not chugging those Mountain Dew Long Island iced teas, which I have had those days of. But I went to Buffalo Wild Wings, and I was like, I'm not going to drink. And I got high before I went. So I'd be like, I'm not going to want to drink. I'll be high. And then I was high, and I wasn't happy. And so I ordered a beer, and right after I told the server about the beer, right after I told him about it, right after I ordered it, I was like, I shouldn't have done this. Oh, God, I shouldn't have done this. And I had 1 PBR, and then, I don't believe in odd-numbered drinks. You got to have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, but those are good numbers. Something about 1, it's just like, what are we doing? Depending on your tolerance, 3 is probably the same feeling. It just always feels like for me, when I drink odd-numbered drinks, it's almost like I'm 0.5 off from an amount of understandable drunk. Everything else, it's almost like, for me, 5 beers might be more dangerous than 6, because like, hey, where am I? But I got another beer. And I cheated, though. I cheated because I was like, I'm going to get another beer, and I'm going to have 2 beers, and I'm going to be a normal guy. I'm going to go out to a place with drinks, and I'm going to have 2 drinks. I'm going to have a undisputed most normal amount of drinks you can have in the world is the most undisputed number of normal people drinking you can do. In any country. Even if you're in a place... Even if you're in like a village in Ireland where people just show up and just get fucking hammered on Guinness, if you show up and you only have 2 drinks, then they're like, hey, you're not drinking too much tonight. Okay, but you came to the party. 1 drink is like you're just trying to fill the role, you know what I mean? You're trying to fit in. 2 drinks lets the world know, hey, I'm here to have a good time. I like to have a good time. I know how to have a good time. I'm not going to disrespect this establishment with 1 drink. Once you get that 2nd drink, bartender's like, hey, 2 drinks and up to you now. 1 drink, what are you doing? Unless you're stopping in before a concert and, whatever. But 2 drinks is the best amount. So I was like, I'm going to drink 2 drinks. And I did drink 2 drinks. But I felt like I cheated because I had 2 beers. And the first one was PBR. But the second was a 7% IPA, which is, that little addict part of my brain that's like, well... technically it's 2 beers, but it's 7% alcohol, and PBRs are like 3.5 to 4. So if you get 1 of these beers, it's almost like you got 3 PBRs, but you can tell the world that you only had 2 drinks, which means next week I'm probably going to go to Buffalo Wild Wings and get 2 7% IPAs, unless I'm going full no drinking. But chances are I'm going to try and cheat the system again and I've never had a rock bottom. I've never really gotten close. I've just sort of stepped on parts of a ledge that are a little crumbly, and I go, okay, that's something to look at. Small thing in my head, something to look at, you know? And yeah, just trying to do beer math to possibly get 2% drunker, is part of me that I'm like, that's not normal. It's not how normal people drink. You know what I mean? It's not like a regular act. It's not like successful, responsible people look at a beer menu and they're like, fuck the taste or quality. Which one is a bang for the buck, And you really, for me, feel like I could develop a problem because every time I tasted that fucking shitty ass IPA, I was just like, fuck, this tastes so bad. And I'm only drinking it to fucking get drunk. When the fuck, it's starting to, but when the fuck is the pendulum gonna swing? When are the tides gonna turn where IPAs, all of them, are considered the shittiest beers? When's that gonna happen? Because people talk down on Pabst, Bud Light, Bud Heavy, Miller Lite, Corona. No, not Corona. The domestic Americans, People talk down on those, like that's shitty beer. But these companies, they make IPA because it's the easiest beer to brew. It brews the quickest, it's like the simplest, and then they fucking upsell that shit, and they make buku bucks, and then they just enter themselves into a craft market that is all a sham, if you're asking me. What the fuck is a hazy IPA if not an unfinished beer? Hazy IPA is like something that if you toured a factory, they'd be like, drink this. This is safe to drink. This is unfiltered beer. This is what the beer looks like in its raw form. This is kind of what beer was like in the old days, where there's kind of shit in it. And you'd be like, ooh, that tastes like shit. I bet it'll taste better when they filter it. But instead, they're just throwing that shit in cans and being like, isn't that better than a Miller Lite? And I'm like, why would it be? Here, do this math for me. I could drink 4 PBRs and be in the beginning stages of being drunk. I've stepped on the staircase of drunk, maybe a couple steps up, and I'm feeling good. The beer, to me, tastes good. It's agreeable. The whole thing with shitty beer, it's like you drink any domestic American beer. What? Which one of those really makes you go, ooh? None of them. They're just fucking watery and boring in some ways. But it tastes like beer. You drink 4 of those PBRs, Miller Lite, Coors Light, High Life, whatever. You drink 4 of those, you're going to feel good. You're having a good time. It's light. It's not too bad. You're probably pissing. You do that. Or you drink fucking one of these double hazy IPAs. All of a sudden, you pretty much had like 8 beers, which, if you're not ready for that, is not really what you signed up for. And the entire time, it has tasted like absolute shit. Like the entire time, It's just annoying to me because it's like beer has never been, fancy. Like I'm sure it has in the sense that it, was a process that wasn't easy necessarily for thousands of years until only certain people could do it. But at the same time, fucking anybody can ferment shit if you have the shit and a pot. So beer's just been beer. So I hate this weird, like, it's almost like this. I feel like the millennials like it because they're afraid to be wine snobs because, they don't want to look like old capitalist assholes that are obsessed with money and look and, the fact that a lot of expensive wine literally will taste the same as like a $30 bottle, I think they're afraid to be that. And so they're like, oh, I'll be a fancy beer guy because that's more of like this new American thing. And I can go to these breweries and I can drink small goblets of 4 different beers on a fucking cricket bat and tell myself that I actually appreciate it. You just like beer. That's fine. Just drink the beer and shut up. It's all if you put fucking PBR in a new cool can, people would be like, "Wow, this is a really refreshing, agreeable taste." And if fucking PBR had been making double hazies this whole time, everyone would be like, "That is the worst shit in the entire world. That is the worst shit ever." And it's just so funny because it's like the wine tastings and different wine. Like, wine is always pretty fine. There are wines I don't like. I'm not much of a Sauvignon Blanc kind of guy, you know. I like reds, or maybe if it's a white, I like a Riesling, and I like a crisp Riesling. You know, it's like you have preferences, but at the end of the day, I've never necessarily tasted a wine that I've been like, ooh. I've been surprised by taste sometimes. I've been surprised and not a huge fan, but I've never had the reaction to wine that I have had to a fucking double hazy IPA, you know? I mean, those shits are disgusting. And you really, like, my cousin's boyfriend, fucking husband, he's a really nice guy, and I have no problem with him, but it is one of his things to have craft beer. And people are like, ooh, where's this from? And it's always just fucking like Indio, California. Like, it's just like the middle of California in the fucking desert. And they're like, what do they do? And it's like, they make an IPA, you know, and they pretty much only make that IPA. And then they make some fucking pale ales, but they barely make any of them. And they kind of suck because it's like, you know, and that's like his thing. And, you know, you'll be at Thanksgiving and they're drinking these fucking double hazies, you know, and you just want to be like, so if that can was a PBR, all of a sudden our, you know, West Coast elite, you know, and not even elite just in money, but more so in behavior, in liberal yet conservative behaving people. We behave, we're quiet family. But if those beers were Miller Lights, are we trash all of a sudden? Like, oh, I'm sorry. So we're fancy because you spent fucking $30 on a six-pack? Like, what the fuck? What are we talking about? What are we doing? And also, I don't know, maybe those people aren't alcoholics too. Maybe they're the people that can like drink one drink and then just feel drunk and be like, that's enough, and be happy, and the drinking itself doesn't really mean anything. Maybe it's the more alcoholic thing, like me, to be like, I want to be able to drink kind of throughout the night. So I'm gonna sip these PBRs, or maybe even a light beer, so I can keep that party going, you know. And it's more of a partying mindset, and it's, you know, it's because frat dudes too, if you're getting beer, you're getting that American domestic, usually on the cheap side beer, and you have this kind of ironic but true love for it, you know what I mean? Like, the amount of frat dudes that are like, I fucking live for Natty Ice, is a strong crew. It is a strong crew, and you gotta put respect on them. But that's, you know, that's what those beers are associated with. But what fucking annoys me is that these IPA guys, it's like, I fucking see what you're doing. I can see right through what you're doing. This is obvious. This is a tale as old as time. You're trying to hide your vices in a veneer of craftsmanship and stability and fuck that. Drink a fucking light beer, 7 of them, like a man, and fight your family at Thanksgiving. Throw a punch, but not at anybody, just in the air. Put down the IPA, okay? Nobody wants to hear about how much you love England and how you have to go. Nobody gives a fuck. What people want is for you to drink 7 Coors Lights and look at your uncle and go, you know, you're a fucking shit eater, and my aunt should have never married you. And then, you know, you end up pushing him, you know what I mean? You push him, push your uncle. Make a family. Have a moment. It's all I beg of in my family is, can we just have one Thanksgiving where people are going to blows? Because instead, we just have this weird passiveness about it where, like, there can be beef in the family, but we're just fucking forks scratching on fucking plates, Even when shit's wild, nobody's we act like it's a fucking play. When my dad was fucking up with drugs, he's doing good now. He's doing great. He's back in action. He's killing it. But he was relapsing a little bit of the drink, a little bit of the pills. He'd come down while he was living at my grandma's house on Thanksgiving. He'd come down fucking sleepy, okay? Like somebody needed Betty by time. Maybe they had taken a little stuff that made him look like that. He'd come down. I remember we were at the table. Very funny placement for him, too. He's at the head of the table, and his arms were down here. Never a good look at the Christmas table, at the Thanksgiving table, whatever. You look like you're either sad or you're fucked up. If your arms are down here at the dinner table, you are not on ball. You are not on the ball. Nobody is holding court looking like this. Nobody's like, hey, how you do? Oh, great to see you. I love, He's like this. Mouth open, eyes closed. Just nodding. Just fucking nodding at the table. And I'm just fucking, I don't even, you know what I mean? I think I was right next to him. I think I acted like a wife of a terrible husband where I didn't even tap his leg. I didn't even do it. I just looked at him. Because I knew he was coming back up. Just looked at him. He's just like, huh? And then, he opens his eyes. And who's right there? Me. Across the table, just like, the fuck was that? Merry Christmas, Dad. That's what we have. It's like we either have extremely successful doctors and lawyers in our family. My dad's a learned man. He has his own business. He's a very smart guy. He's got. I'm not gonna go into his fucking job because I'm talking about his. He's good now though. He's a smart guy. Even he is a part of the intellectualism in our family. We either have this, these successful people with degrees and they help people. You have that. Then you also just have the other end of the spectrum where one of those guys is fucking nodding off at the Christmas table. I would like a little bit of the middle where it's like, yeah, Ronnie has a drinking problem, but we see it. It happens. We see him do it. We're also getting drunk too. He's just at 8 when we're at 4. But instead, in my family, it's like nobody's even fucking drinking at Christmas. Meanwhile, fucking Pops is at a 10. You know what I mean? Like, the rule of, like, hanging out in a group or, like, a party, but more so a smaller group, maybe 4, is that you guys should all, if you're getting fucked up, should be fucked up on similar things. That's, you don't want one guy on fucking acid, and the other people doing blow. It's not gonna work. That goes for family parties too. We just don't come in with a frat mindset about it. But I don't know. I don't get drunk with my family. I have had some drinks. I've had I went to my mom's wedding, trying to have a good time. And I'd been drinking, but I didn't see disappointment in her eyes, which is also like when your mom is getting remarried and you're at a destination wedding in fucking Massachusetts, some of the bets are off. I think actually if I didn't drink a single beer that time, there would be a part of her like, oh, poor guy. We're in fucking Massachusetts for a wedding. You should be fucking pouring down some BLs, some Bud Lights. What are you doing? Some Narragansetts. Looking at me with a tear in her eye, But I was around her when I was a little sauced, and that was fine. I was okay with that. But I got a little high too. I don't like being around your mom when you're high. When you're drunk, you kind of feel dumb, and you worry when your mom is like not even worried about you, but just being a nice mom. She's like, "You doing all good?" Kind of like your friend, but also your mom, where it's like, I can tell you're a little drunk, you okay? And all of a sudden you're like, oh, no, you're not supposed to, you're a good mom. You're not supposed to help me be drunk. This is no. But when you're high around your mom, there's no like, hey, you all good? I can tell you're drunk. They're just looking at you like, you all right? You good? And then you're like, yeah. Yeah. But I don't really drink with my family. I have been little fucked up around my family, but we're not as a group drinking. You know what I mean? We're not like, hey, it's Thanksgiving. Here's a 30 rack casually. Nobody's even thinking about it. We just need that much beer. Here's a 30. Everybody in the extended family and the old enough kids, we're going to have some beers. We're going to hang out and we're going to sit. And it's like, dude, me and my family just fucking keep it business casual. Like, to a point that you just want to just be like, what? So anybody cheat? You know what I mean? Like, you just want to just throw something out there. Just fucking, what's wrong with everybody? What's going on? Anybody harboring political opinions they're afraid to tell us? Anybody think the vaccine is poison or something? I'd love to hear something, man. Just fucking anything, because us agreeing on establishment Democrat policies are all fun games here, but can we talk about something actual? It's like my family is just getting together and just being like, Trump is so dumb. And it's like, fucking obviously. Of course he's stupid. But he also fucking was pretty good at winning. Why don't we talk about how we fucked up here? It's like, what are we doing? But now there's new babies in the family. There's new babies, so they're just fucking, they are the conversation. My cousins both had one girl each and one boy each in the same order, and very funny. My cousins like 3-year-old daughters just do not fuck with me since day one. Just as a baby, I'd look at them and be like, "Hi, I'm doing the work." Hi, and then they would just be like, "Ugh." Now they're older, they can speak, and I'll walk in, and my aunt or maybe my cousin will be like, "Hey, here's Cooper. You want to say hi?" And then they just go, "Ugh," just look away. And I jokingly, but not jokingly, have gotten to a point where I'm like, you know what? Fuck them. I fuck with people who fuck with me. You want to fuck with me? They don't even listen to my podcast. They don't even have a podcast. They don't even have a job. Okay? Why am I going to argue with people that don't have jobs? They don't fuck with me. But the boys, the newborns, they're around a year or less now. They're good guys. They got smiles on their faces. I say what's up to them, like, hi, and they're like, ah. They can't talk yet, but they're like, hey, what's up? Doing that. One of the kids is great. I was watching. I know he is going to like to party, and I really hope he doesn't have a problem with it, but he's definitely going to be good at it, for better or for worse. But I know he's going to party because, like, he had some string cheese. He had, like, several ripped off strings of it on his plate. And, instead of kind of taking one and kind of palming it, he just took his whole hand, his tiny hand, and he put it on top of 4 separate stringed cheeses. It just went like this and just held them like shoelaces. And then just in his high chair just goes and, like, smacks them into his mouth and just, like, kind of push it, like, to making sure they all get in. Just slamming them. And then he had this fucking sippy cup that has a straw, so you can really only drink it down. You just sip it. But he's trying to chug. He's, like, already trying to chug. And I'm looking at him like, this is a fucking good guy. And he's got good vibes. I like how he lives. I like what he does, But I almost kind of wish I had the family where we could get together, have a few beers, and I could look at my cousins and be like, I don't fucking like your daughters, to be honest. They don't understand this now, and I'm never going to be rude to them when they're older, but I just want you to know, just fucking man to woman right now, I don't fuck with them. And I get why other people do. Because, you're their fucking parents or grandparents or, whatever. I get it. But I just want you to know she's got bad vibes. I don't like her. Okay? If this whole thing works out with the comedy, no favors, no tickets. It's the most insane possible way of thinking. But it is kind of a bit. But it does. It is, you know why it's funny? Is because they're my family. They are of the same blood. But they just showed up. I've been putting in the hours in this family for 23 years. I was a cute baby. People liked me. You know, I'm part of the family. And then they show up, the newest people, getting all the stardom in the world, and they look at me like, who the fuck are you? And I'm like, I am the giants on which you stand on the shoulders of. I'm the giants you stand on the shoulders of. I built this shit. No, my grandma did. But, you know what I'm saying? It's like fucking, I got, I'm like a musician. I've been in the game, you know what I mean? I've had hits. I've had people still listen to my shit, You guys are just coming in like, who's this fucking old head? And it's like, dude, we're going to be around each other till the day you die. And I want you to know, even as a 3-year-old, you have made a bad impression. You're really not, to me, not likable. And it's funny because people are like, they're 3. You can't say that about them. I'm like, you can technically, and I am. Do I think anything I'm saying reflects on them as people? No, because they're not fully people yet. But, I mean, I'm going to know them for the rest of my life. And I am always going to look at them probably a little bit like, you think you're better than me. You've always thought you're better than me. But the fellas have good vibes. The fellas are good vibes, and they like hanging out. They like just having a good time. Maybe get older, watch some LIV Golf with them. That's my new thing. You don't know what LIV Golf is LIV Golf. And it is a somewhat shady Saudi Arabian-funded golf league that I assume their plan is to rival the PGA Tour, the main, or the European Tour, all the tours. I think they are trying to rival all of those as kind of a worldwide organization, which all of them are. They're all open invitationals, kind of. But point is, this new golf league, a lot of people are upset about it because they're like, where's that money coming from? It's from the Saudis. They did 9/11, which is fucking stupid because it's like, so did we. We also did 9/11. We helped them do 9/11 to us so we could go into other countries that they don't fuck with either. So what the fuck are we mad about? The PGA Tour is getting money from America. How the fuck did we get our money? But some of the most famous golfers in the world have moved over to that tour because they're paying them, some of them hundreds of millions of dollars just to be in the tour. Let alone the prize money, which the fucking purse for every single invitational, for every round of every invitational, there are like 12 invitationals, 3 rounds each. If you win one of those rounds, if you're the winner of, of the invitational, if you're the winner, the purse is $25 million. And the winner, just himself, gets thrown $4 million. The second gets like 2.1, the third like 1, and then all of the 11 under that get like 500,000. Like the very last guy gets $120,000, which is unprecedented amounts of money for golf, which is kind of why people are shady, because they're like, where the fuck is all this money from? So it's unprecedented numbers of money in golf. It's like never before seen. And so they're getting some of the best golfers in the world to go, despite the behest of some of the general public. But it's so exciting to watch because I like watching golf because I play golf, and golf is a fun sport to watch. It's the same as like kind of marathon running if you run because it's something you can go do. Like you can just go do it, not at all as good. But if you want to golf, anyone can golf. You can rent club. Anyone can golf. You can't go play tackle football, which I also like watching. But I like watching it because I already like watching golf. But even if you don't like watching golf, or you never have, I implore you to watch LIV Golf because there is so much money on the line that if you're watching and you're like, this is kind of boring, remember the guy in first place is in his head like, I could make $4 million today. And then he's also thinking, I could fuck up and lose $4 million. I could miss out on $4 million. And the guy in second is like, if I can fuck this motherfucker over, I can go from $2 million to $4 million. He's just, when you're putting, you got the short stick, you're on the green, you're trying to get in the hole, you just go, that little can roll into $4 million, or it can just roll $4 million away from you, which is like, if that is not fucking exciting, then I don't know what is. It's also exciting because of the utter sort of lack of respect for the game and how it's usually been played, because they're changing not really the rules, but the format. Now they all start at the same time. They used to start at different segments. Now there's teams, there's this, there's that. But they're not really changing rules, but what they are doing is adding shit that is so funny. Like, they have live concerts at the golf events. I don't know if you remember Jessie J. It's not about the money, money, money. She had like one song. She performed at the VMAs with a broken leg, and they bedazzled the cast and put her in a huge chair, and boy, did it not make up for the fact that she was performing with a fucking broken leg. But they got her playing there. They got multiple DJs fucking playing there. And it's so funny because you'll see a guy trying to hit a golf ball, with the intention of making $4 million and or losing out on making $4 million. It's so important to him. And in the back, you just hear the bump of bass and a vocalist and a crowd. And you're like, there's people there that aren't even there for the fucking golf. And can you imagine golfing? You're trying to focus and there's a concert happening. Which at that point, you're just like, just fucking remember how much goddamn money you're making, no matter what. You gotta realize some of these guys aren't millionaires. Some of these guys are at the beginning of their career. Some of them are older guys, that already have a bunch of money and maybe have been given a bunch of money, but already just to join the league, I mean. But the fact of the matter is, no matter how rich you are, if you can fucking pocket $4 million after 3 days of golfing, you want that. You want that. There's nobody. Even if you told Jeff Bezos, you're like, if you golf in this tournament and you win, you have $4 million just quick. He'd be like, cool. I'll like buy a few apartments or whatever. I'll do something fun, for him. Like, it's exciting. And I don't know. Having a new sports league with these teams and these players and getting to watch it from the beginning is exciting. And it's just exciting because the league itself is disrespectful and nefarious in the world of golf, and you gotta love that. That's why this is called the Disrespectful and Nefarious podcast. I think we're looking at, that's a solid 58. And I don't have much else to say about LIV Golf. And if I just keep talking, I'm gonna start talking about how I may or may not have been present at the riots, No, I'm not. I'm a bleeding heart liberal. Thanks for tuning in.